Welcome back to my channel. This is CS Neha Challa. So we were doing Factories Act. So I have covered two lectures till now, and now this is the part three and the final one of Factories Act 1948. So in the last two lectures, we have already covered all the health measures, and in welfare measures, we have covered the health of workers, safety of workers, welfare of workers, and the working hours of workers. So in this video, we will be covering employment of young persons, annual leave with wages, and some other miscellaneous points that have to be covered in this particular chapter. So moving ahead, we'll be talking about, we have already covered employment of women. So we are talking about employment of young persons. Okay. So who are these young persons? So anybody who did not complete their 14th year of age, they will not be allowed to work in the factory. So young children not completed 14th year shall not be allowed to work. Okay. So moving ahead, if at all somebody finished their 14th year, they have finished their 14th year, then they will be called as adolescent worker. So they'll be called as adolescent worker. So whenever there is any adolescent worker, whoever has completed 14th year, what should they do? They should go and get a certificate of fitness. So they should go and get a certificate of fitness. From whom? So they should get the certificate of fitness from the particular certified surgeon that we have already seen in the first video, right? So whoever has completed their 14th year, since their body is not mature in a full manner, they should get a certificate of fitness, and this certificate of fitness they should give it to the manager of the factory. Also, whenever this adolescent worker is working in the factory, they will always be given a token. So they should carry this token with them all the time whenever they are doing any work. And this token number will be entered as a reference to the certificate number. Is that clear? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So going to the next one, this certificate of fitness, as I told you, it is given by certifying surgeon. So what this young person has to do? First, he should go and submit an application to the certifying surgeon. So this certifying surgeon will examine the person. She or he will see if this person is fit or not. Then, if she thinks he is fit, then he or she is going to give a certificate of fitness. This certificate of fitness will be having a validity of 12 months. And if you have completed 14th year, you will get a certificate of fitness as if you are a child. If you have completed 15th year, then you will be called as an adult. So if you have completed a 15th year, then she will give you a certificate of fitness which is applicable for adults. Okay, if you have just completed 14th year, then she will give you a certificate of fitness as if you're a child. So from here on, whenever I say child, that means you have completed 14th year but did not complete 15th year. So that is a child's definition. Now moving ahead here, this young person, whenever he is giving this particular application to the certifying surgeon, along with the application, there should also be a document which is signed by the manager of the factory, because a manager of the factory has to tell that yes, I want to employ this young person. Okay, so this application can be given to the certifying surgeon either by himself, his parent, or his guardian. So that is about certificate of fitness. And also, see, if the certifying surgeon thinks that he's fit, okay, she'll give the certificate of fitness. But if at all she thinks that she is not supposed to give the certificate, if she thinks that he is not fit, then she should also give the reasons why she is refusing to give such a certificate. Also, a certifying surgeon can give a certificate putting some conditions. Conditions like she can say that you cannot work in this part of the manufacturing process, or you cannot go and deal with this particular machine A. So anything, any conditions that she wants to put are fit, she can put, and this conditions should be adhered to by the person whoever is getting this certificate. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yep.
ma'am.
Now we're talking about fee. Who will pay the fee to this particular surgeon? So the occupier will pay the fee, and he cannot recover the fee from the young person or the parent. Also, one more thing that we need to understand over here is, if at all the certifying surgeon wants to take back this particular fitness certificate, she can take off if she thinks that this person is not fit anymore. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So moving ahead, now we are going to talk about working hours of children. Till now we have spoken about working hours of an adult. Now we are talking about children. So children, they can only work for 4.5 hours, not more than that. Okay. Also, they will be limited to only two shifts. Okay. So once one shift is being carried on, obviously at the same time, I cannot put him in another shift. Suppose I have put him in a shift from 9 a.m. to 12. Okay. Now I cannot put him into another shift from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. 2 p.m. Right? Because they are overlapping. So anywhere, wherever there is overlapping shifts, I cannot put him. And also the shift should not spread over more than 5 years. So we have already seen, like in the adult case, also one interval only five hours, just like that. Here also a shift should not be more than 5 hours. But anyways, we have seen that he should not work for more than 4.5 hours in any day. Okay. And each child will be only put into one relay, that is one group that we were talking about, except with previous permission. So if I want to put him in two relays, I have to take the previous permission. And a child cannot be called before 8 a.m. and after 7 p.m. to work in the factory. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now here we need to have a register of child workers, just like how we have register of adult workers. Here in the child worker, I'm going to talk about what is his name, okay, nature of work that he's doing, the group in which he's there, what are the shifts this group is going to work, and also here I'm going to mention the certificate of fitness, which we didn't have otherwise in the case of adult. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So next, moving ahead, we are going to talk about annual leave. So every person, see, as you have seen in this COVID situation, also there were a lot of laborers who were leaving to their hometowns, right? So people's house is somewhere very far from where they are working. So that is the reason we need to give them annual leaves also, so that they can go and spend some time with their family. So this is also one of the reasons. Okay. So annual leave is nothing but if you have worked in the factory for 240 days or more. Suppose in this year I have worked for 240 days or more, then I will be eligible for annual leave. So whatever are annual leaves relevant for this year, I can take them in the next year. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So how many annual leaves will you get? So the annual leave that I will get will be for 20 days of work, I will get 1 day of annual leave. Okay. Suppose I work for 300 days. So how many annual leaves will I get? Hmm? How many? 15 days, right? 300 divided by 20. Clear? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that clear? Yeah. So 1 day I'll get for all the 20 days that I work. So if I work for 300 days, that means I'll get 15 days annual leave. So this is in the case of adult. In the case of child, for every 15 days, you will get one annual leave. Okay. So this annual leave I will be taking in the next year. So suppose next year also I will count 240 days now. Next year also I'll count 240 days now to understand if I'm eligible for annual leave or not.
Yes.
Yeah. See, this 15 days leave I'll be taking in next year. So next year when I'm counting 240 days, 15 days it will be lessened, no? Yeah.
Yes.
So that is the reason it was told that any leaves that I'm taking because of the previous year's leaves, that will not be count that will still be counted as if you're coming to the work. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So in counting these 240 days, what all days are deemed working days? Any layoff that the factory is only doing because of any agreement or contract, you got some holidays, or if it is permissible under law, then even if you take leave on these particular terms, still it will be covered as if you have worked on that day. Okay. Any maternity leave that you got not exceeding 12 weeks. So till 12 weeks, if you have taken a leave also, you will be counted as if you were working. Okay, any leave earned in the year prior to that in which leave is enjoyed. This I already told you. So because of the previous year, you're getting any leaves that you're taking in this year, that will still be counted as if you are working. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now, talking about This leaves, we are talking of exclusive of any Sundays, exclusive of any holidays. Apart from this, extra days I will have to give you as leave. Okay. In counting this for 240 days or anything, if I have taken a half a day or more leave, then it will be considered as full day. If it is less than half a day, then it is omitted. Okay. It is as if you have worked on that day if you have taken a less than half a day leave. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So moving ahead, carry forward of leave. Okay, suppose what have I done? So they have given me these leaves, but I haven't taken them in any of the year. So I can carry forward it to my succeeding years also. Okay, but maximum how many can I carry forward? Maximum for an adult is 30 days, and maximum for a child is only 40 days. So these are the leaves that I can carry forward to my succeeding years also. Suppose if I have applied to this manager, I have applied him for a leave, but he is not granting me a leave. So if he is not granting me a leave, not only this 30 days, this leave also I can carry forward without any limit. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now moving ahead, we're going to talk about availing of leave. So whenever suppose you got this 15 days leave, no, that we just spoke about, you have worked for 300 days, you got 15 days leave. So you cannot just tell the manager one day before and leave, right? So what you should do, you should give him a 15 days notice telling that, see, I want to take a leave from this day to this day. So 15 days before you took the leave, you will have to inform him. But suppose you're working in such a factory which is related to public utility service. If it is related to any public utility service, in that case, you should give the manager 30 days notice that from here I want to take the leave. So you should tell him before 30 days so that he will arrange any other worker in your place, right? And manager cannot refuse your leave unless if it is in accordance with the scheme. So within the scheme, if it is written that he can, restrict or refuse your leave, then only he can do. Otherwise, he cannot refuse to give you a leave. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So moving ahead, time of payment of wages. So when are the wages paid? What day are they paid? So see, whenever we are talking about all these workers, they're not paid much, right? They are paid very meager particular money. So for them, I can see then for normal people, what happens? The entire month they work. After the 1 month, then they get paid. But in the case of workers, it is not like that. They cannot survive one whole month without money. So that is the reason it is said that if at all a factory, industry, or establishment, if it is having less than 1,000 people, then I should pay them wages seventh day from date of wage becoming payable. So what does this mean? Suppose this is 1st of June. So 1st of June. So 1st of June he worked. So if he has worked on 1st of June, so from 1st June, so 1st June he worked. So let's say on 1st June I have to pay him 1,000 rupees. So before the expiry of seventh day, so from 1st June till the expiry of seventh day, I will have to pay him wages which is related to 1st June. Okay, so before 7th of June, I will have to make him the payment which is related to 1st of June. So that is the reason in any factory you see that every worker is paid on a weekly basis. So from 1st of June, the whole 1 week whenever he worked, the whole of those 7 days ka wages it is paid to him on the end of the week. So this is, or maybe daily also they get paid. So if at all I have less than 1,000 members, seventh day. If at all I have more than 1,000 members, then it is 10th day. Before the expiry of 10th day. Also, if it is related to any dock, wharf, or jetty. So I told you dock is a place where the ships are kept so that it is repaired. So in that cases, that is also a manufacturing process. That is also a factory. That is what we study. So if at all an establishment, a factory is related to dock, wharf, or jetty, for them also, it is seventh day. Both basically these two are similar. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Suppose if at all I'm removing any person, if at all I'm removing any person, so once I remove him, within 2 days, I will have to make all the payments that I have to do to him. Okay. Okay, so I cannot wait till 7th day. I will have to do the payment within 2 days, whatever payment is due to her. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So next we are going to talk about wages during leave period. Okay. So what are the wages that I have to pay during the leave period? Okay. So whenever I told you annual leaves, right? So on the annual leave also, I'm going to make them payment. They are leaves with payment, right? So what is the payment that I'm going to make them? That is what we're going to talk about over here. Okay. So in this earnings, we will not include overtime or bonus. These are not included, but dearness allowance or any cash equivalents that I'm paying him, anything that I was paying him in cash. So all that will be considered as his earnings. So suppose I'm taking a leave on this day. So what is the money that I'm going to pay him for his leaves? So it is nothing but all the earnings that this worker was getting immediately a month prior to his leave date. That will be taken and the average is calculated, and that average payment I'm going to make him for all the days that he's taking as leave. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Suppose in the last month he earned about 30,000. Okay. So 30,000 average is nothing but 30,000 divided by 30, let's say for 30 days. So this is going to come up to 10,000, 1,000,
130.
right? 1,000 per day. Yeah, 1,000 per day. So he's taking 15 days leave. So what will I pay him? I will pay him 15 into 1,000 rupees. So which is coming to 15,000 rupees is nothing but the money that I'm going to pay him for the leaves that he has taken. So this is how we do the daily average. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So once I added up all these 30 days, it has come to 30,000. So this I'm going to average and that I'm going to make him as a payment whenever he has taken as a leave. Suppose he's taking as a leave and immediately before this leave, 1 month he did not work. So in that case, what earnings will I take? So in that case, any 1 month that he has worked before the leave, that 1 month's earnings I will take. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So moving ahead, we are going to talk about advance payment. See, this worker is going out to stay with his family or whatever. He's taking 15 days leave. So he cannot survive with money, no, without money, no. So that is the reason I will make him advance payment. I will make him advance payment before he goes for a leave because this is a paid leave, no. So for the paid leave, I'm going to give him an advance payment of not less than 4 days if it is adult, of not less than 5 days if it is a child. Okay, so I can give all the entire 15 days if I want to give the payment now only I can give. But before he leaves, at least I should give the payment for 4 days, not less than 4 days. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So moving ahead, we are going to talk about encashment of leave. Now, suppose if this person has not taken the leaves, he's not taken the paid leaves. He was not taking any leaves. So he can encash the leaves. He can take the payment for all the working days or for all the leaves that he has not taken. So when can he take this encashment of leave? He can take this encashment either at the time of discharging, that is, he's getting discharged of his duties, if he's dismissed or if he's quitting or if he's superannuated. Superannuated is nothing like he's getting retired or he's dying. So in these cases, if there is any leave that he has not taken, he can take the encashment for this leave. Okay. So he can take the encashment of this leave provided the payment should be made within 2 days if it is discharged, if he's dismissed or quits. Okay. So suppose if I quit today, my leave encashment should be paid to me within 2 days. Okay. Suppose if I'm dying, then they will have to pay my leave encashment to my legal representative within 2 months from my death. Okay. So this is about encashment of leave. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So next we are talking about some penalties. So from here we are all going to talk about penalties. So I wouldn't suggest you to remember these penalties because it is practically not possible for you to remember all the penalties that you studied in Companies Act or any of that. Again, these are very simple. So we can quickly go through them. So penalties for an occupier of or manager, if the occupier or manager he is doing any contravention with this particular act, then imprisonment will be maximum 2 years or fine of 1 lakh or both. If it is a continuous contravention, not only one day, he is keeping on continuing this contravention, then fine will be extended to rupees 1,000 for each day. Suppose I did contravention for 5 days, for every day I will be charged 1,000 rupees. Also, if the contravention, so I did something wrong in this particular act because of which it caused death to a person, then the penalty will not be less than 25,000. So it will be more than 25,000. And if I've caused any bodily injury to anybody, it will be more than rupees 5,000. So this we are talking penalties to an occupier or manager. Now here we are talking about liability of owners. So you can see there is a premises, and in this premises there is factory A and factory B. Okay, I am the owner. Okay, let's say Sneha ma'am is the owner of this premises. Okay, I'm the owner. I have rented factory A to person one, and I have rented factory B to person two. Okay, as you can see, this is a common premises. Okay, let's say there is only one entry to this particular premises. Okay, so the anything that is related to this common area to both the factories, I will be responsible. Okay, so if it is leased to different occupiers, owner of the premises will be responsible for the provision and maintenance of common facilities and services. So the common facilities and services, the examples could be roads, drainage, water supply, lighting, and sanitation. Anything can be there. So the owner of the premises will be responsible for such a thing. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So here we are talking about enhanced penalty. So enhanced penalty is nothing but the same kind of offense you're keeping on repeating. You're already convicted and you're repeating the same thing. Okay. So if you are convicted with the same offense, then the penalty, penalty will be more and the imprisonment will also be more. So the imprisonment will be maximum of 3 years and fine will be minimum of 10,000 and maximum of 2 lakhs or both. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what is this being guilty? So see, there is an offense that I have committed over here, and before 2 years have passed, again I have committed that offense. So in that case, this enhanced penalty will be applicable to you. Otherwise, it will not be applicable to you. So the court will only consider if you're doing it before 2 years from the previous conviction that has been convicted on you. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Next, talking about penalty for obstructing inspector. So in the first lecture, we have seen inspector has four powers, right? He can enter into any place, he can examine any articles, he can question anybody, and then he can also take the documents, right? Suppose I am obstructing him from him doing his duty. Suppose I'm willfully obstructing him. I'm not producing the documents I'm supposed to give it to him. I'm preventing any worker to appear. Suppose the inspector is asking worker A to come and answer to his questions. I'm not letting worker A to go to the inspector. Okay, I'm not letting the inspector examine anything. So in that case, my imprisonment will be maximum 6 months or fine of 10,000 maximum or both. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So next we are going to talk about powers of central government. So in this particular act, some powers are specially given to the central government. That is, if at all central government wants to provide any emergency standards, they can. They can fix the maximum permissible threshold limit of exposure of chemical and toxic substances. That means, suppose there is a toxic substance called A. Now, central government can tell that how many kgs of A can you keep in the factory. Okay, that is the maximum threshold. Suppose the central government wants to put only 10 kgs. So more than this 10 kgs, you cannot put in your factory. This power central government has. Okay. Suppose there is any occupier, central government can tell the occupier to set up a safety committee. Okay. And who will be the members of this safety committee? The workers and managers in equal proportion will be the members of this safety committee. That means if workers are 10 in this committee, then management members also can be 10. Okay. Okay, so there should be equal representation from both workers and management in this safety committee. And what does this safety committee do? It will ensure the safety and health of the workers. Okay, so moving ahead, the central government can also, suppose there are any workers and they found that something is dangerous in the factory. If they think something is dangerous, then they should give a notice to the occupier saying that, see, this is something that we found dangerous. Now, this occupier will do proper things that he's supposed to do. He will take proper measures that he has to take in order to prevent these workers from that danger. So he will also file a report with the inspector about what are the dangers that the workers have informed the occupier and what all measures has he taken. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So moving ahead, these are some penalties if you're doing anything wrong when it comes to hazardous processes. So this will be the penalty. That is, your imprisonment can be up to 7 years, maximum fine of 2 lakhs. If it is a continuous failure, rupees 5,000 per day. If it is continuing beyond 1 year, okay. So in that case, imprisonment can extend to 10 years. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So if any worker also does any offense, so he is doing anything against this act, then the maximum fine that I can levy on the worker is rupees 500. Okay. So moving on to the next one. Here we are going to talk about penalty for using false certificate of fitness. So we have seen certificate of fitness. So if a young person is giving a false certificate of fitness, then he will be imprisonment maximum 2 months. Fine is maximum rupees 1,000 or both. Clear? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So next, moving ahead, penalty for permitting double employment of child. So we saw in the entire Factories Act, nobody can do double employment. But suppose I'm doing double employment and the parent, guardian, or custodian, whoever is having the custody of the child, if they are making the child do all this, then the fine will be of maximum rupees 1,000. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so next we are talking about closure of the factory. Suppose you want to close your factory, then you will have to inform the central government. You will inform the central government if you have 100 people or more working in your particular factory. So if 100 people or more are working, then you will have to inform the state government that you are closing your factory. Okay, otherwise you cannot close your factory. So this is about Factories Act 1948. I hope I made this lecture easy and enjoyable to you. So if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And any doubts or any questions that you have, you can put it on the comment section. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. See you in the next video.